Welcome, beloveds. I'm Lainie Love, beaming in with the Power of Transformational Retreat series. And today have Michelle Nayeli Bouvier, the founder of Kutila, School of Embodied Resilience. So excited to have you here, beloved, especially since we first met at a transformational retreat. And so it feels very fitting to be weaving in this conversation. And I also know you have an upcoming retreat coming up as well. So I'd love to just jump right in and really talk about, what do you feel the three key elements are that make a retreat impactful and really memorable and just juicy and embodied and yummy for attendees?
Mm, Thank you, Lady. I'm so grateful to be here chatting with you. I forgot that we met at a retreat. Um, Three keys. I think the first is a break from the norm because we get so ingrained in our habits of mind, of thinking, of being, of moving, of eating, of resting or activity. And so I'm creating a shift where there is a crack in what's possible for something new to happen is the first piece.
Mm.
And that doesn't have to be, it could be one day, it could be a week, it could be a month. It doesn't have to be any certain amount of time or size. Um, the safety and belonging of the group or the container, I would say, is the second. Our nervous system is the gatekeeper for any transformation. And we need to feel like we are safe and we are held and we are connected. Really, truly, everything about life is about relationship and change and flow of what happens between um, us and others and us and experiences and us and retreats. It's not individual. So that safety, and I really am like visualizing like this net that's catching everyone, but it's very open. So we feel held and we feel our mm, our piece of creating that as well. Like it's a unique experience and a unique recipe for whoever shows up.
Mm.
Second, and hmm, I mean, I'm biased. So I'm a movement, professional. I'm very oriented to embodiment as our superpower. So I would say some element of embodiment. And I
Agree.
Okay, I know not all retreats may have that, and not everyone may really need that. But our body is the way into, again, through the nervous system, change our mind, change our heart, and actually kinesthetic learning, learning through the body, is the fastest way to learn new habits and undo old habits. So if we're looking for transformation, to me, I would say that would be the third.
Yes, I love that. I 1000% agree. I don't think you can actually have a transformational retreat, like a truly transformational retreat, without an embodiment piece or somatic piece or letting it actually all land in the body. So I 1000% agree with you. And, love that there are so many different modalities that we can weave in, and love that that's such a core part of what you do as well. And I loved what you said around, the nervous system being a gatekeeper to our transformation. So I'd love to go a little bit deeper there, because that's definitely different than any of the other conversations that I've been having. And I know that that piece is really important to you in your work. What would you say really supports the resiliency of the nervous system in transformational experiences, in transformational retreat settings, so that we can really receive the full benefits, the full medicine, the full impact that they're meant to have?
Mm. So, nervous system resiliency is our ability to both be able to activate and deactivate, and in pulse and in rhythm, and also do that in an appropriate way to the situation environment, right? So, we don't want to have the inappropriate response in the wrong context. So, I think that it goes back to the safety as the kind of primary thing. Um, and Probably the ability to rest. So, the way we integrate is through deep rest and sleep. And, I've been on a few retreats that are kind of like trainings, and they're sort of ends up being no time to rest, right? And so, making sure that there's spacious moments of the day, especially if there's real deep work happening, and then also like, not something too late and early at the same time, because I don't know, like me, I don't want to miss anything. So like schedule in the rest, so that we have the opportunity, almost like I am a little inspired. We have two monarch chrysalises outside. And so, we need to have that like inward rejuvenation on the cellular level, on the energetic level.
Mm.
I would say that is one of the best ways to make sure the nervous system is as available and as grounded. And then there's that rhythm, right? So the rhythm of um, knowing what the waves are and having times where we gently or with safety, are invited to touch an edge, or invited to like really let loose and to really go to the ecstatic states or the like wild, fierce states, so that we can understand that wave. And truly, that's one of like the biggest skills for living in the time we're living. So a little bit of both, but probably rest first.
I love that. Yeah, one of the ways that participants like to refer to my retreats is going on a magic carpet ride, and I very much see and feel it as that rhythm, right? It's like there are the peaks, there's the valleys, there's the moments of rest and integration, but then it's like real peak ecstatic experiences to create that deep somatic level of change. So I love that, and I appreciate that, and and also early on in my journey, going to retreats, not taking time after to integrate, I lost so much of the medicine that I received because it didn't come all the way in, because there wasn't the opportunity built in at the retreat, because it was a shorter retreat usually. And so it's like that integration piece and rest piece can't be emphasized enough, not only at the retreat itself, but having space for that afterwards as well. And those touch points to hold people and to continue to weave that basket, that web of safety and connection and belonging, to hold people as they are bringing this back into their lives. Because often it can be a rocky landing. I'm sure you've experienced as well the big expansion that can happen, and then on the other side, the like really big contraction. And so really making space for that and tending to that very lovingly with care can be so powerful and supportive. So really appreciate that. And, speaking to the participant's nervous system, I also wonder, for you as a retreat planner, as a retreat leader, how do you support your own nervous system, your own practices of self-care and resilience, and really maintain your own well-being as you're interacting in community, as you're holding space, as you are leading, planning, and holding retreats?
Yeah. I was just thinking, before you even asked that question about this. I was like, this is what's in my head. Because I kind of learned the hard way. I
Mm.
tended to be the person, um, as both a participant, but probably even more so as a retreat leader and facilitator, to like maybe get like there a day early. Like now I'm imagining a destination retreat, and get there maybe like a day or a half a day early, but come home like right away into like the next day it's back to normal. And I have since learned that it's nice to have at least 2 days on the front. Um, and definitely at least a week on the back end, before going back into, my normal life. And in the last couple retreats that I led, um, I had a co-facilitator. And so that was really, really helpful to understand that we were sharing the holding of the space and the content. And so I could release and receive intermingled with my own leading. And so I've chosen to do most of my retreats that way, partially because I wanted to also be on retreat. um, and it's interesting because I'm planning a pretty intensive week long, it's not it's still in the planning stages. Retreat that would just be me, and I'm feeling kind of interested about like, well, how does that work? I think it's just gonna be more breaks where I take myself into a quiet space. And I know that about myself in general. Whenever we are leading and giving, it feeds us, and we need the balance, the nervous system thing. It's like this giving feels so good, but we need to really like close into the chrysalis and be quiet to then be able to show up fully in the next moment, in the next session. So that's my plan for the future. And that's what I do in my normal life, is very much in that kind of rhythm. So I know that from regular life too.
I love that. And yeah, I often at least will have a guest facilitator that comes in for at least some sections, because there is something to be said, especially in a 5-day transformational retreat, to be able to have some space to just be able to let go and to offer that over. And I also usually will have a pretty significant team that's co-holding the space too, like my event doula, and then people that are sort of helper participants, to really create pillars so that it isn't the entire weight is on one person. It's like we are sort of distributing the weight evenly of the lift in a way that, if somebody needs a little extra break, they can take that and another pillar gets stronger. And so it's just been a really beautiful way to be in that symbiotic relationship and weaving to create that space. So I love that you also create that and do that and make space for that, because it is it's a little sort of trade secret too. If you want to also be able to receive a retreat, you co-facilitate with somebody, and then you get to be in the experience of going and leading, but also receiving. And I also really love and appreciate that, especially for international retreats. So I love that you mentioned that, because it's definitely it's a little secret that is it's a really great one if you want to ease into leading retreats as well. It can be a way that you find somebody that's already leading a retreat and be like, hey, I'd love to co-facilitate with you. Here's an idea that I have. Our medicine could work really well together. What do you think? And so that can be a great way to get started as well for those that might be more aspiring retreat leaders instead of more seasoned retreat leaders. So we'll be talking a bit more about that in our Revolutionary Retreats event this Friday as well. But yeah, I really appreciate that you also do that. And there's also the piece that you brought forward as well about having like a week for integration after. Some people might be like, wow, that seems extreme. It's really not. Whenever I haven't had a week, I've been like, wow, I really wish I had a few more days, right? So when you're leading a really big transformational retreat and you're holding all of that, the space for restoration on the other side of that needs to be equal to what you have just given to so many. And so I love that you also name that, because I don't think a lot of people really know that until they're in the experience. And then afterwards they're like, oh shit, I really wish I had some more time here, because this is huge, And so I love the little gems that you're like teaching here in this share. And so thank you for that. I really appreciate that.
I do just want to also add that if that's not practical, then it could be maybe something like, and I know like going on the retreat is better than not. And if you are a mom or you have a family or something like that, and you need to get right back, maybe there's a way to at least like slowly titrate back to the full normal. Like maybe it's 20% of normal. So we have like an easier transition. And if you can't stay in Costa Rica for a week, maybe you could stay for 3 or 4 days. And, I always like fly through Los Angeles and see my family for one day. And, that still counts as decompression. It's not normal. And then come home and like ease up, or don't tell anyone I'm back yet. So like you can get grounded at home. So there's different ways that can look too.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I definitely tend to do grounding at home. I really like that part. And especially I was more speaking for retreat leaders to really be able to take that full week, but definitely as participants, being able to really take that space as much as you're able to, just to titrate. I think that's the best word for it, because that also supports the nervous system, right? It's like, and it also supports not going into that extreme contraction that can happen when it's like, oh, I got to get right back to it, got to hit the ground running. Like that definitely admittedly is a lot harder after having a really opening, transformative experience in a retreat setting where you've been really deeply held, because often in our regular lives, we aren't all that held. Right. And so it's this way where we have to create that for ourselves. And so creating that container, building it in however is necessary, I think is really powerful. And yes, just not telling people you're back yet. Just being like, I'm coming back a couple of days from now. Just keeping that space really, people really need you to be able to say, no, this is my space. This is my cocoon, right? This is that space. So would you be willing to describe a time when one of your retreats had a really profound impact on the participants and what you think really contributed to that? Sort of like a star moment that you remember at a retreat that you've done that you're like, oh, that was sort of a pinnacle transformational experience.
I led this retreat called Embody for, I think, 4 years in Costa Rica, where there were 3 or 4 facilitators each year. And the premise, the intention was to experience various forms of embodied practice that were all powerful to consider as, your yoga, basically, because I've kind of been on this mission to help people understand that yoga is a way of life and embodied practice is a tool to experience connection that we call yoga, but it has nothing to do with the asanas. And so dance as a practice of yoga, of union, etc. And so we had things like hula hooping and some creative prana-vinyasa yoga that's very fluid and ecstatic dance and 5 rhythms and different kinds of things like that. And there was one year in particular that we were in the space itself was surrounded by this little creek, like it was a sort of man-made or like it was natural creek, but they guided it around. So we were surrounded by water and then there were frogs. So that was part of it over the ocean. And there was something in the alchemy of the modalities that we chose that by the end of the week, we just didn't have any words. Like in the closing circle for people to share, we just were speechless. And we continued to talk about it for myself and the other leaders for a number of months after. And I have my various theories about it, but it was so much more richness and power and like some big life decisions and like half the people were made in that retreat than any other, and definitely more than any other like yoga immersion that I had done. I was like, it's the power of the play. Play was a part of it. The free form expression was a part of it. And I think a lot has to do also with the magic of who we attract and the collection of people in that particular retreat. You can put a lot of pieces together and you can't like have control over everything. So there was some kind of kismet and blessing there as well. I don't know if that's fully an answer, like to really guide, but there was a trust, we trusted in like continuing to do that project. I think that might have been the last one actually.
No, I love that answer. And, the idea whenever I've gone to a Koya retreat or co-facilitated one, it's like spending the whole week in your body, in embodiment practices, going deeper in and in and in and in. It's like there is this point where it just becomes, it isn't about speech anymore. It's just you become the essence of your full, true, most natural self. And it's like the essence of you is fully online and present. So nothing needs to be said. It's like, essence of sparkling shamelessly, which is at the core of everything I do. So I love that. But I also love what you touch on about the fact that there is a particular alchemy in the constellation of beings, the light beings that come together, that literally form a constellation like the stars in the night sky that can't be replicated. It's like, it's this particular energetic, this frequency that emerges from the group consciousness, from the we consciousness. And that has some really profound medicine as well, because, you know, as we gather, it creates that vortex of power that amplifies all that we're doing. And so, yeah, there's a lot to be said for the who is being attracted to the container from your own energetic, from your own frequency, from your own medicine, that then that compounds and expands that, and it has this multiplier effect. It's an expanding effect of all that is possible in that container. So love that.
Absolutely.
And I know that you have an upcoming retreat coming up that, you know, is an experience for people to participate in. So wondering if you just want to share a little bit about that as we begin to come to a close here.
Yeah. In honor of the equinox, which is a time of, even though we think of balance, it's actually a big shift. And I've taught yoga for 25 years and lived Ayurveda for a long, long time. And at this juncture in the Northern Hemisphere, it's fall. I just looked out the window and like all these leaves came down right when I said that. And it's a time where we tend to we want to work to keep our center and keep our balance. And we can be thrown off with different shifts in the weather and diet, and there's more detail to that. So it's equinox honoring retreat called Finding Balance through Living Yoga, Ayurveda, and Shakta Tantra, with using the body, the breath, meditation, and lifestyle practices. And it's one day, and there's 4 different sessions. It's online and it's by donation. So anyone here listening is invited to join us. And if you have any experience or no experience or are an expert, there will be something for you. And we make it really honoring the traditions and the ancient wisdom, but also really fertilized by modern research and modern science, because that's how my brain works. I like it when they come together. It's so fascinating. What a fascinating time to live right now in so many ways.
So is, thank you for that. That sounds like a really beautiful offering. And for any of those listening that are aspiring retreat leaders or seasoned retreat leaders, coaches, healers, we have our Revolutionary Retreats free event that is coming on Friday, the 13th, which is the original day of the goddess. And it really promises to ignite your leadership potential and really equip you with the tools to begin to create transformative retreats and really empower you to make a profound impact while also thriving financially, because retreats are actually really statistically an amazing way to create sustainable resources at this time in the wellness industry. And so looking forward to sharing that medicine with you, beloveds. Thank you so much for taking the time to connect today, to share some of your retreat wisdom and medicine. You're such a natural, beautiful teacher, and just really grateful to be connected in this way, and sending blessings for your retreat, and cannot wait for what's to come from here.
Thank you, Lainie. Sending so many blessings to your event as well, because I really feel that in a world that's changing faster than humans have ever seen, like we need that time. We need the time to connect to ourselves. One of my teachers suggested that we all need at least a week a year. And if you are a leader, you need like a month a year. I don't know that I live that, but your work is so, so, so important and so needed. So the more retreat leaders and facilitators that we can have, the better. It's time to grow, time to transform.
I agree. Thank you. It's really one of the most profound ways that we can deliver medicine in this time, and in a way that truly supports the transformation globally that is needed in the real crisis point that we're in. You know, we don't have time to wait. The awakening is happening now. And so retreats really support that, and really grateful to be offering this at this time, and just deep gratitude to you, beloved.
Dear.
Bye.
Bye.